But I remember when all this stuff was kind of hidden in the news, and all the stories really focused on patients like faking it.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple bad seed doctors. They would talk about like this, maybe perhaps this one made like some kind of Dateline story
Yeah,
or
pill mills
something.
in Florida, that
Yeah,
kind of
pill
stuff. Yeah.
mills and also and people like, really scrounging for the drugs and faking pain and all of that, right? But at the time, not enough of the heat was going on Purdue and the fact that they kind of created this entire little industry for themselves.
Absolutely. And a lot of people profited off of this industry too. I mean, think about the drug distributors
Right.
who noted nothing wrong with like sending to these small towns so many doses of opioids that it could like literally, give one to every single person in the state just to like one small town. I mean, at one point there were like, I don't know the exact statistics, you can look them up, but it was like, you know how like there's like 5 guns or whatever for every American?
Right.
This made guns look like, gold coins or something. Like they were so common, and it was like there was like, I can't remember again the exact number, but it was like 10 for every single person in the country, you know.
Well, we can't really talk about Purdue's like marketing strategy without talking about McKinsey
Yeah,
because they hired McKinsey in like 2004.
correct. Yeah.
And man, McKinsey did, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this company. I mean, management consulting. McKinsey is the end all be all of management consulting.
Yeah, they're the top dogs.
Yeah, I think that they probably are worse than at least a couple of the banks.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that you can, I mean, I think it's Goldman Sachs is a terrible fucking company. Look, everyone knows how much I hate bankers. It's hard to pin actual bodies on Goldman Sachs. It's very easy to do that to McKinsey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally, specifically in Saudi Arabia, they handed over, or the government got their hands on a list from McKinsey of critics of the regime on Twitter.
Right.
2 of them were arrested, and one who I believe was out of the country, had several of their relatives who were in the country arrested. McKinsey, of course, claims it has no idea how the government got that list.
No, it says that they didn't know what the government was going to do with that list.
Oh, well, technically that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, these people are, I mean, they're really fucking evil. And I guess one thing to say is that, Purdue, in order for Purdue to make money off OxyContin, they realized they needed to create addicts.
Yeah.
And McKinsey came in and said, we can actually help you create that more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so combining their expertise with like the Sacklers' innovation in advertising, I mean, it was a perfect storm.
Yeah. Some of the, I think they called their program Evolve to Excellence.
Okay.
Which is a fucking Succession ass fucking kind of
Yeah,
management brochure
yeah,
name. But basically what they saw was that they already had that Purdue already had these kind of, high volume prescribers, and that what they needed to do was target them more. I mean, this is in 2013.
Yeah.
So this is at the fucking height, right? What McKinsey said was they have to pull their resources from all of the ones that were low level prescribers and just fucking pummel the high volume prescribers with more and more resources. And they promised Purdue that they could increase their sales upwards of 100 million by doing this. They called it turbocharging the Purdue sales engine.
They actually use the words turbocharging too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was part of the presentation. They also, I mean, this is the thing too, is that McKinsey, and particularly, it should be noted in their settlement that they just reached, which is about like I think it's around 600 million. One of the stipulations is that they would not admit to any wrongdoing.
Classic.
Yeah, super classic. Because, but I mean, these guys fucking knew what they were doing. In 2017, their presentation to the Sacklers estimated how many customers from companies that were prescribing OxyContin would overdose.
Yeah.
So they
There's
would
some really fantastic slides in that.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And so with like CVS and with Anthem, and I think in particular in CVS, what they did was they said, okay, well, in 2019, we think that at least 2,500 CVS customers will either have an overdose or develop a disorder. And so what we're going to do is, as like a kind of incentive to CVS to not drop shilling OxyContin, is that we're going to promise a rebate of $14,800 quote per event in case that happened. And so we promised to pay you an additional, CVS, we're going to pay you an additional $37 million a year. So just to like be totally clear, McKinsey, like their business plan for OxyContin was to drive sales by promising companies refunds for every overdose.
Yeah, and of course they reading sort of like the analysis of how they do the rebates too in the documents is, I mean, the whole thing is just totally
It's totally sick.
perverse. Yeah, I mean, these people are sick.
And to be clear, like the people who work at McKinsey are the top graduates of Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford.
Yeah. And they go on to do really wonderful stuff too.
They work for the government. They work for fucking
tons of politicians,
the biggest law
owners.
firms. They work for the biggest banks. They're the heads of the IMF and the World Bank. I mean, this is the elite training ground. This is what our country trains people to do.
Yeah.
To fucking come up with the idea of selling fucking rebates for everybody in the ground.